My name is Daniel Skoog, and I'm a product manager for Maple. In today's webinar, we're going to be discussing what's new for education in Maple 18. In particular, we'll be focusing on additions in Maple 18 designed with education in mind. But Maple 18 also includes many other new features and enhancements, such as a new package in time series analysis. There's also major performance enhancements. We've added code generation for Python and Perl, as well as enhancements to existing packages such as signal processing, dynamic systems, physics, and in many other key areas which will be of interest to any researcher. So to start, let's just open up Maple 18. And when you open up Maple 18, the first thing you'll see is the new Maple Start page. And the first start page is really an easy access portal to any Maple content for new and seasoned users. And as you can see here, the Maple Start page covers a wide variety of topics, something from calculus, control design, down to linear algebra, statistics and probability, as well as any type of industrial applications. And each one of these pages, if we go a little bit deeper here, so if we go into the calculus page, what we see on the calculus page is that we see a collection of key examples, help pages, tutorials, and tools related to each topic. So here I can see here are some tutors for calculus. Here are some math apps at the bottom. If we go one level deeper into integral, we can now view even more math apps, as well as tasks and help pages. And even at the bottom here are some online links. We can, of course, return to the start page using this handy icon here for the home page. And of course, another important consideration for the start page is that it is completely customizable. So if we open up our components palette, we can use the new shortcut component in order to quickly and easily add new elements to our page. So here I can say, point this to the Maple portal, and we'll click OK in order to have this shortcut here link us over to the Maple portal. So it's completely customizable. You can save it. You can generate your own start page as you'd like. But now talking a little bit more about content, and one of the things you may have seen when we first opened up Maple 18 is this search box up here. So this is our new help search box. So if I type in a term here, this will query our help system and look for anything that matches this keyword. So here I've searched for int, or the integrate command. So now I can get a preview here of the int command, as well as pulling out the calling sequence, viewing additional examples, even looking at examples from the Mobius cloud. Let's do another example here. Let's look for Archimedes. And if I search for Archimedes, the first result it returns is actually one of our start pages. So we can go to the start page, mathematics geometry, or maybe pull out the geom3d is Archimedean command. Down below, we can see a preview of the definition entry, our dictionary definition entry for Archimedes, which is the Greek mathematician. We can also run the Archimedes approximation of pi math app directly from the help search box by clicking here. The bottom two, again, are cloud entries, so these are pulled from the Mobius cloud. So moving on, let's talk a little bit more about content. And I'd shown you there at the bottom of the list some math apps. But let's move on now, and let's talk about some of the new classes of math apps we've added in Maple 18. And what you can see here in front of you is a couple of the new math apps that we have in Maple 18. And in Maple 18, there are over 75 new math apps. And the math apps are designed with the classroom in mind. So each one of these is, they're designed to teach a concept in an interactive way. And in Maple 18, we've introduced several new categories. So there's a new category for biochemistry. There's new math apps for engineering, as well as logic and puzzles. So let's go in now and let's have a look at some of the new math apps. And I'll just click in here to go into the What's New page for math apps. And here we can see is a preview of all the different math apps that we've added. And I think what we'll do is we'll scroll down and we will run the Surface of Revolution math app. I'll just take my time going down just so you can get a preview of some of the new content that we have. All right, so let's run the Surface of Revolution math app. And in this math app, a student is given the details on a surface of revolution, and as well they're given a 2D plot here. We can take and we can draw a line or some type of curve, and then we can choose to show the surface of revolution. So we can choose to rotate this around an axis. So here we'll now see this rotate around an axis. So as with any one of our math apps, our math apps are structured such that there is initially a concept section where we outline the main concept, including all the math that goes behind any one of our demonstrations. And there's an interactive section, which is the part that I was just interacting with. So let me show you another one here. And let's scroll down a little bit more. Let's go down and have a look at one from physics. So let's open up the Doppler effect math app. So here we can see here's the main concept behind the Doppler effect. And below we have an interactive demonstration. So I can turn this slider up, and this increases the ratio of the velocity of the jet to the speed of sound. We can click play here. We can now watch as this jet moves along and the Doppler effect basically emits out from our object. We can of course turn up the speed of this ratio and also change the emitted frequency. So those are a couple of quick examples. As I mentioned, there's over 75 new math apps in Maple 18. So I would definitely encourage going through and having a look at any one of these. But let's move on. Let's talk a little bit more about actually generating interactive content inside of Maple. And Maple 18 has continued to grow as an app authoring platform. The math apps that I've just shown you today have all been generated, have been developed inside of Maple. And one of the key technologies for generating math apps and interactive demonstrations is the explore command, which allows us to create a collection of interactive components inside of a Maple environment with one command call. So here, for example, I can type in some math that I want to see how it changes as we vary a parameter k. So we can just right-click on this, and then we can choose to explore. And we want to vary values here for k, so we will skip n. But now what you'll see with this new explore pop-up is that we can actually do things like change the controller type. So if we wanted to have a dial instead of a slider, or use a meter or any type of gauge, we can do this just by selecting here. We can change values here. We can also override the default placement. So if we wanted to put the controller at the bottom of the page or at the right of the page, we can do so using options here. Now for the moment, I'm just going to leave this the way it is and just choose to explore, just to give you an idea of what this returns. And here you can see that we now have a slider as well as the math. So we can just drag out this slider in order to view how this changes as we increase k. Another important consideration here is in Maple 18, the math container that contains this math element here now doesn't have a shown border. So this math actually looks completely seamless. And that's just one of the many embedded component enhancements that you'll see inside of Maple 18. So let's go back. Let's just change this example a little bit. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. We're going to factor this instead. And again, we'll right-click, choose to explore. And in this case, let's turn on some animation. So I'm going to choose to animate true. And then we'll explore this. And then we can just hit play to play this back. I'll show you one more example of using animations. So I'm going to load up our new Fractals escape time package. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the visualizations you can generate using the escape time Fractals package. But for now, what we're going to do is we are going to explore a Mandelbrot fractal. And we're going to explore it for two parameters. A for values between 50 and 300, and A is the iteration limit. And the zoom. So we're going to have a zoom parameter, which basically lets us zoom in on the surface of the integral of the fractal. Pardon me. So let's explore this. And now I'm using the explore command itself. So here we can actually see several of these new options used directly within the explore command, rather than being used within that pop-up we saw before. So now we've generated the the fractal, as well as our collection of components. So now we can play this back, and we can slowly see as we're zooming in on the surface. And one of the great parts about the explore command is we can actually turn off exploring one of the parameters at any given time. So this is handy if we want to have Maple just do the zooming for us while we're manually changing values for the iteration limit. So this basically gives you control. So you can basically have Maple varying one parameter for you automatically while you're varying the other one to see the effect on the result in the plot on the right side there. All right, so let's move on now. Let's talk a little bit more about generating some other types of interactive demonstrations. And I'm going to focus now on some tools for grading. And we have, in Maple 18, we've introduced a new package called Grading Tools. And the Grading Tools package provides tools for grading, including commands for things like grading plots, generating interactive quizzes, and a lot more. So in this example that I've prepared here, we can, for instance, generate a question or interactive plot question that asks students to sketch a plot of something like 2x minus 5. So a student can then come in and start clicking points, and I'll just click a couple here at random. I think this is actually going to give us a wrong grade, but we'll click grade here anyway. And now we can see here's the answer. So we actually receive a grade of 0 because we were a little bit off here. We can reset this, and of course if we go back in and try this again, getting us a little bit closer to the surface or line itself, we can click grade, and now our return grade is 1. So students can really they can click out the points to form a line and then have Maple grade that result using the Grading Tools package. Now I want to show you a couple more examples. Let's talk about creating interactive quizzes. So with this new grading package, it's also very easy to develop interactive self-grading quizzes for students so they can test themselves as well as gaining additional practice. So I'm going to start with some very basic examples here. So I'm going to load up the grading package. And the first question I'm going to ask is a very simple one. So we're going to use the quiz command. We're going to ask it, is 1 plus 1 equal to 2? Then we provide an answer. Then we give it the type of question we're going to use. So I'll hit return here. You will see now that Maple returns the question as well as 2 checkboxes. So either this is true or false. Over here we have a check answer box. So is 1 plus 1 equal to true? I'll click true, check my answer, and it's correct. Now, of course, we can do this with procedural elements. So here I'll ask the question, is a randomly generated number prime? So is 17 prime, for example? We can try another here. So is 13 prime? Is 19 prime? And of course, this is true. Check the answer, and it's correct. And we can also have things like multiple selection in a question. So if we ask the question, which of the following could be portions of the plot of sine x? So this part here, we can certainly see that this might be part of the plot of sine x. We can check this answer. But this is returned now as incorrect. And the reason for that is that the second part is also a part of the curve of sine of x. So now we can check our answer and have that returned as correct. So the Grading Tools package really, it's a quick way to generate questions as well as student response areas with basically the ability to ask open-ended mathematical response questions, true-false questions, multiple choice, multiple selection questions. So this is just one of the new tools we've introduced that makes it much easier for you to generate interactive demonstrations inside of Maple 18. So let's talk now a little bit more about our student packages. So inside of Maple, we have several different student packages. I'm going to open up the Tools Tutors menu to give you an idea of a couple of these different student packages that we have. We've got student packages for things like linear algebra, pre-calculus, vector calculus, calculus 1. And in Maple 18, we introduce a new package for student statistics. And this package is designed to help teachers present the material of a first year or a first level course in statistics. As well, we have lots of interactive demonstrations that hopefully will help students to learn the material contained within one of these courses. So I'm going to run an example here for you. I'm going to first load the student statistics package. And then let's use the new command explore RV, so explore random variables for a normal random variable distribution with parameters mu and sigma. Now for anyone familiar with the explore command pop-up, this is similar to what you would have seen before, that we are now able to specify values for mu and sigma. For now I'm just going to use default values, -10 to 10 for both, and we can explore this. I'm just going to zoom out so we get this entire table on the window at one time. So here you can see now we have an exploration of this normal distribution. We can vary values for our parameters of the mean as well as standard deviation. And we can see now how the statistical properties, things like the mean, median, and mode, support variance and moment generating function, change as we vary these values. As well below, you'll see the values for the probability distribution function and the CDF, as well as plots of both. Now, if we'd like, we can also turn these symbolic. So if we want to explore a symbolic normal distribution, we can now see we get the symbolic values for the mean, which is obviously mu, or the variance, which is sigma squared. As well at the bottom here, now we now see the symbolic values for the probability distribution function and the cumulative distribution function. So that's one new tool for interactively exploring statistics. I'm going to open up another new worksheet here, and let's look at another one. So we're going to open up Tutors, Statistics, Test Guide. And the test guide is an interactive, method for students to step through and discover what type of hypothesis test they could possibly run for what they're doing. So say if they wanted to test for mean, we can choose Next. And now what it does is it gives them a series of questions that helps to basically filter out choices for the type of test. So we'll just, for the first question here, do you want to test the mean of a single sample that is assumed to follow normal distribution? We'll say yes. Is the standard deviation of the sample known? Yes. So you can use the Z test, one sample Z test. If you click Help, you'll get more descriptions and more details on the one sample Z test. If we want to go back, we can also say, is the standard deviation of the sample known? No? Oh, so now we can use the one sample t-test. So it basically helps students to step through and discover the type of hypothesis test that is applicable to their current question. All right, so let's talk about one more new package inside of Maple 18. And this is the new Student Basics package. And the Student Basics package helps students to explore the foundations of higher math. And it makes it possible to do things like provide step-by-step breakdowns for, as we see here, expanding and simplifying mathematical expressions. And I'll show you one example here. So this is using the linear solve steps command out of Student Basics. So we'll just hit return here. And now we can basically see the step-by-step solution. And we'll get all the details on how we got to our final solution along the way, just shown on the screen here. So all the steps of the solution are shown and documented, so a student can really easily understand what's happening at each stage of the solution. And this is kind of complementing some of our other tools for step-by-step solutions. Things like our integration methods and differentiation methods tutors, which are all found under our Tools Tutors menu. So you'll find them under Calculus Single Variable, differentiation methods, integration methods, as well as things like our Gauss-Jordan elimination tutor, which lets you step through and look at all the steps along the way of doing a row reduction of a matrix. And a couple of other tools we've introduced are some more clickable math tools. So I'll open up the palette on the palettes again on our left side here, and one of the new palettes you'll see here to complement our expression palette is the new calculus palette. And this contains buttons for constructing expressions such as double and triple integrals, dot derivatives, and much more. As well, we've consolidated all of the student context menus in the main context menu. So if you load any one of the student packages, you'll be able to find, say, Student Calculus 1, Student Linear Algebra, directly underneath the main context menu. So it makes it very, very easy to find commands that are relevant to operations you'd like to perform on any expression you've entered into Maple. So let's move on now. Let's talk a little bit to end with about visualization inside of Maple. And to do this, I'm going to enter into our slideshow mode. So I'm just going to go View Slideshow. And let's talk about visualization for a moment. And this is something where we've put in a lot of really neat new features for Maple 18. So you'll see that there's a lot of great new features. There's things like background images on plots. There's been updates to our color tools packages. The ability to do custom plot shading. We've added a lot of new visualizations within fractals, within signal processing, and time series. I'm going to give you just a quick sampling of each one of these. So here are some examples from the new time series package. The first one here is our new time series plot. And this particular example here is showing monthly passenger arrivals, as well as some forecasts using some of the forecasting tools from time series analysis in order to forecast monthly passenger arrivals into the future. On the bottom here, you see a seasonal analysis plot, which is another way of viewing data with the time series package. Let's look at some more. So within signal processing, we've introduced new commands for generating spectrograms, as well as signal plots, which are the bottom two. We showed an example before, but the new fractals package makes it very easy to create and explore popular fractals, such as the Mandelbrot, Julia, Newton, and other time iterative fractals. And this may be of the most interest to a lot of existing Maple users. We've introduced a lot of new plot options. So something like the new size command, which makes it possible for you to customize using the size option, the size of the outputted plot. So you would just specify size equals, say, 100 by 100 to get a 100 by 100 pixel plot. We can also choose to do something like change the background color of a plot. So here we can set the background color to be black. Or we can do things like add a background image to a plot. And here are a couple different examples. So the real use for using background images might be to do things like show a connection between a mathematical expression, say this curve here, and then a real-world representation, which is the background roller coaster. Or it's another way of viewing data. So something like we've got a world map here with these dots on it. And these dots here represent earthquakes of magnitude 2.5 or greater over a 7-day period. So here we can see basically these are all put right on top of this background image in Maple. That brings me to the end of this presentation. But we've really just scratched the surface of what's new in Maple 18. I had mentioned at the beginning there are a lot of other features that are certainly relevant to yourself as educators or researchers. There are new tools for app authoring. There are new tools for connectivity. There are lots of new tools for code generation, such as the new code generation assistant. We've seen lots of the tools that are featured in our education here, but there's a lot more to look at inside of Maple 18. And I really hope you have a chance to try out a copy of Maple 18 soon and enjoy some of these new features. Thank you very much.